All right, we're live.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, I'm sure no one's watching currently since we've been live for only 10 seconds, but welcome to American Hammers TV. This is the opposition match preview show. That's what I've been calling it since I started at the beginning of the season, but Nathan and Kimberly, you guys have the honor of actually being on the first version of the show with an actual name to it. So we're calling this show Feature Focus. Obviously, we're focusing on a specific Fixture Focus. Sorry, not Feature Focus. Fixture Focus. We're obviously focusing on a specific fixture coming up. In this case, away at Dean Court this weekend. Nathan, does anyone still call it Dean Court? Do you guys call it the Vitality? What do they call it over there?
I call it Dean Court. I was always known. I didn't realize the name actually officially got changed to Vitality because I was over in Canada, and but apparently it got changed to Vitality. I still call it Dean Court.
Kimberly, what do you call it?
Vitality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I like to keep it old school as much as possible. So I refer to it mainly as Dean Court, but I didn't want to I wanted to make sure that I'm referring to it in the correct way. But it seems like you fans do both anyways, so it's all good. But yeah, Fixture Focus. First time the show's called that, so you guys have the honor of that. Obviously, we're going to talk about the upcoming match, but before we get into that, I always like asking people, especially people since we're here in North America, across the pond, so to speak, how you guys became Bournemouth fans. Kimberly, I'll start with you. How did you stumble upon becoming a Cherry?
So actually, my brother Matthew, who got us connected. So thanks, Matthew.
Oh right, yes.
He's actually been a Hammer his whole life. So I kind of grew up with Premier League on always in my house and everything like that. It wasn't until a few years ago though that I decided, this actually isn't so bad. After ridiculing him for years, I decided to give it a chance. And after putting, some thought into it and doing some research into the league and everything like that, just trying to figure out what team I felt fit with me. And I thought kind of the energy of Bournemouth, with Eddie Howe and how everybody was so invested in the league. People come to Bournemouth and they stay. And so I very much like that, how it was kind of like an older, smaller feel, but also still a newer team, still just brought up to the Premier League as far as, history is concerned, especially with West Ham being, one of the older leagues. So for me, that's what I loved about Bournemouth.
Gotcha. And so, I'm sorry, your brother's name was Matt, you said?
Yeah, Matthew.
Matthew. So how long has he been a West Ham fan for?
Well, I'm 23, so I'm going to say 23 years. He actually, I don't even know if I want to say it was, I grew up with Green Street Hooligans on in my house all the time.
Okay.
But he's always just, he's always had the affinity to Europe and traveling over there. And that was always kind of his jam. And so I kind of grew up with that being his thing. And so now it's very cool for it to kind of be both of our things and for us both to go out to the bar on match day and have fun together. So.
Are you guys going to go out together on Saturday?
Yeah, so we're actually calling it Drotar is our last name, so we're kind of having a Drotar derby. So nice. Every time we play each other, we have a whole big breakfast and everything like that, and we get the whole family involved.
Well, if history is any consolation, you may be coming out on top once again. We haven't played too well against you guys over there. Nathan, how did you become a fan, man? I think I know the answer, but why don't you tell the people?
Yeah, I'm born and bred from Bournemouth, so I grew up local team. It's only been recent years that it's been exciting, but I grew up going to the games, grew up in and around the stadium, so it's pretty simple. I was actually at the Bournemouth West Ham game last year, in January last year, to watch them win 2-0, which was exciting.
That was a 2-0 victory? Okay.
Yeah, it was a 2-0, and then we beat you 2-1. Sorry, I'm starting early with the jab.
Yeah, because you guys beat us 2-1 at our place early in the season.
Early, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the 4 matches that we lost to start the season.
Yeah, you did.
I don't actually quite remember the 2-0.
I think it was a late 2 goals penalty, and then we scored in like the 90th minute or something. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. So I love Bournemouth. Yeah, it's my hometown. So, but it's awesome to hear your story, Kimberly. That you love the town and love the team, that this old and young feel, because that's exactly what Bournemouth is.
Yeah, it's very much like an old team, but like I just very much love the investment in it and everything like that. And I kind of was in it for the long haul, and I didn't want, when I talked to Matthew about picking a team, he said, you're very much not allowed to pick one of like the top 6 teams. Like, nobody wants a front runner. So there was some to choose from, but I fell in love with Bournemouth.
Yes, specifically coming from a West Ham point of view, I think that's one of the things that drew me to the club in the first place. The fact that it wasn't one of the more popular picks to choose from, because obviously I'm American, I'm from Chicago, so I have no affinity in terms of geography with any of the teams. And I did put some thought into it in terms of becoming a West Ham fan. There were some connections that West Ham had to, or some similarities, I should say, that West Ham had to some of the Chicago sports teams that I support and that I love, which is why I picked them. But I actually think that my passion for West Ham has grown and has intensified because of the West Ham community. Both in Chicago, I consider those guys that I watch the games with my friends, but also the guys that I speak with on American Hammers TV. Even when I've gone over to England, the Hammers fans over there have always embraced me and my American friends who are West Ham fans too. So it's the community, really. And I think the reason why the community is so awesome is because it's so tight knit, because it's not the big Manchester United, the big Liverpool, the big Chelsea. It's like, oh, you're a West Ham fan from America? Like, it's almost like a common thread, a respect. And even like Nathan, when you were like just talking to Kimberly now, like, oh, like you love the town, like that's awesome. It's sort of like that common bond. So I can relate to where you guys are coming from. Although Nathan, you were sort of born into it, so you didn't have a choice. But cool. Well, let's get right into the team. So let's focus on Bournemouth first. You guys are 6th place, I believe. Right below us, 10 points from the first 6 matches. And this is probably, I know last year you guys started really well. I think did you guys also start well the year before? I feel like this is the 3rd year in a row, maybe, or at least the 3rd out of 4 years that you've actually started off the first month and a half pretty well.
Yeah, and I like to say that I'm like cautiously optimistic at this point with how well things are going, because
I feel you're there, yeah.
Yeah, we do have a history of starting off really, really strong, and then kind of like that second half of the season just not showing up quite as well. So this has been very exciting, though. I think I'm really excited for West Ham fans right now, actually, because I think I was having a conversation with Matthew the other day before your guys' match, and he was like, we're kind of allergic to the top 7, so I'm kind of scared to see how this goes. So
yeah. So what did he mean by allergic to the top 7? Like
I think you guys always like kind of get very.
Gotcha.
Close and just can never break that seal to kind of keep it up.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there were times last year. I mean, we were very inconsistent last year, and there were 3 or 4 matches. The Bournemouth match may have even been one of them where we had a chance to jump into the top 7, or at least really start jumping into the conversation of catching Wolves, and ended up being. And every time we had a game that 3 points we could have gotten in that conversation, we always blew it, and we always played really poorly. So yeah, I see what he means. We've had a good start so far this year. We're obviously 1 point ahead of you guys, 11 points so far. So I think it'll be interesting, given that both of our teams have started well. It was so interesting. Your last 4 league games, and you guys may know where I'm going with this, maybe not though. Your last 4 league games have all finished with the same scoreline. 3-1. Have you guys noticed that?
I didn't notice that.
No, I can't. Yeah, I can't say I have.
Yeah, I think you've lost 2 because you played City and someone else, and then you beat Everton and
3-1. Southampton we beat.
And Southampton as well. Well, if that's any indication, you guys will probably win on Saturday because if any team's going to give up 3 goals, it'll be us. But Nathan, what do you think so far of the start to the season? I got Kimberly's cautious optimism approach, but what about you? What are your thoughts so far on your team's performance?
I'm super excited. I think, as Kimberly said, we do tend to start off like pretty steady, pretty well, and then we sort of like tail off in the middle of the season and pick up the last few games. But I just feel like every season there is a team like Burnley that reached the Europa. Wolves last year got promoted, it reached the Europa. I don't know. I think Bournemouth have just got a great structure. Have got a good team, got a good young team. We've been hit with some injuries and we're still winning, getting some good results, and I'm super excited. I'm super optimistic. I think it's great. I think our defense can be a little bit leaky at times, but we sort that out. I think I'm super excited.
Yeah, you mentioned something that I've always thought about related to Bournemouth is that you guys have like it seems like you guys have an identity. The club has an identity.
Well,
it has Eddie Howe, right? He's been the main. How many years has he been there now?
He had that blip in the middle where he went off to Burnley about 11 years. I think he joined.
Oh, 11 years. Okay. So I mean, and that's what I think a lot of teams struggle with is they get impatient, especially with all the money on the line and staying up or getting a Champions League. They get impatient, and you can't highlight the importance enough of developing that identity and culture. I really think personally, and I really love your guys' opinions on this. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I personally think that a team of Bournemouth's stature, in terms of just the size of the club, the finances of the club, really has no business getting to the Premier League, and let alone staying there for now. This is, I mean, no disrespect to the club. I'm just saying, like, given the size of the club, right? And this is your 5th year in a row. You guys are an established Premier League club. No one's talking about Bournemouth getting relegated. No one's even like, Bournemouth will be fine. I mean, you guys probably couldn't even imagine that being the case 6-7 years ago, yet here you are. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you have a mainstay in Eddie Howe, the leader of the club, who has built this consistent identity and culture, and I just think it's hugely important.
No, I definitely agree. From my point of view, one of the things I love about the club is that, you know, when you take to Twitter afterwards, you never see people, even if we have a really terrible game, you don't really see people blaming the manager. And I think that a lot of times in Premier, like that's where people turn to, is like, oh, let's go after the manager. Like, he could have done something different, so on and so forth. Instead, we kind of rally around Eddie Howe and say, like, he'll pick us back up again. Like he always does. The players love him. We all love him. He loves us. Obviously, he came back.
Yeah. How long did he leave for Burnley? How long was he gone for?
I think it was just over a year, was it? I can't remember.
But you guys welcomed him back with open arms, pretty much. There was no animosity or anything.
Well, I think we went through like 4 managers in the time that he was gone. So we had been promoted, I think, twice already, or once, I can't remember now. And so we were already on the rise. He left because he got pipped by a bigger club. And so, of course, we were like stagnant, if not already going down a little bit. And then, so of course, we were happy to have him back because of what he brought into the club. And it's just exciting.
Yeah. Again, I think that further highlights the importance of Eddie. The fact that when he left, you guys were headed down, and then I think I remember the story now. Like, you guys were headed towards relegation, and then did he come back in the middle of a season, or was it in the summer that he came back?
I think it was mid-season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he left Burnley to come back to Bournemouth. I can't remember exactly our stats that season, but yeah, it was just good to have him back and back onto a trajectory of moving forward. And
yeah. That's yeah. Like I said, I think that's a huge reason why you guys are an established Premier League club now. But segueing off of that, though, like that's one thought I have about your club is the importance of Eddie and the consistent identity. But another thought I've had is, okay, you have a team that has never been in the Premier League up until a handful of years ago, a team that has almost been dissolved and liquidated, a team that has almost been relegated from the Football League within the last, 10, 15 years. And you guys are up at the highest of high, the most prosperous league in the world. Like I said, you're an established club. I don't know off the top of my head the places in the table that you guys have finished, but I think it's been anywhere from like 11th, 10th to 15th in that range. So let me ask you both, expectations, not really just for this season, although you can talk about expectations for this season. Are the expectations always simply surviving? Or are there Bournemouth fans, you guys or other fans included, that are like sort of clamoring or starting to clamor for, all right, we've been here for a few years now, like let's start pushing for a top 10 finish, dare I say top 7? Are there any factions of the fans that are saying that, or are you guys simply just survive, that's all we need to do?
Well, I've obviously not been a fan as long as Nathan, but from my point of view, I have seen us kind of be kind of stagnant in the rankings. And for me, that's kind of frustrating. It's a comfortable position to be in because I don't start the season from a place of like, are we going to get relegated this year? I don't worry about that. But on the same hand, I've seen the team not grow as much as I would like. Like we're not making the buys and all of the moves in off season like some of the other teams are, and so there is a little bit of like where is this going? But I think with the comfort of Eddie Howe and the trust of a lot of these players have been on the team for a while, and there's that feel that they're so young, but they're still so invested in the team because they have been around for years.
They're committed.
There's a commitment there to wanting to be better and to slowly, even if we just add a player or 2 players, here and there, you're building on a solid foundation. So that's how I look at it.
And I'm really glad that I have both of you on here because, like Kimberly, you said you're a newer fan, and Nathan, you've been a fan all your life. So I'm curious as to your answer to this, Nathan. Maybe you have a different point of view.
No, I think short answer, I still pinch myself that Bournemouth are in the Premier League. It's crazy. It's super exciting. It's you could never believe it. Little old Bournemouth in the Premier League. But I think to answer your point and to move on to what Kimberly was saying, football fans, whether you're old, new, diehard, whatever, they have like short memories, and so I think Bournemouth. I think we're in a time where we can move forward, and so I think there's a real opportunity like this season, like I said earlier, being optimistic about pushing into that Europe position, because I think that's the only way. Otherwise, we'll fall into the same boat like a Stoke City, who are just kind of like hovering in and around mid-table. Then they drop Southampton, Portsmouth, all of these teams, and I think that's a really dangerous game to play. So like even West Ham have done it over the years, playing it safe, and then they get relegated, and then I mean, so I don't think we can be too safe, but we've got to push on, and otherwise who knows where Bournemouth will be. But
and you mentioned like your Stokes, another team you could bring up is Sunderland as well.
Exactly.
A team that's fallen down to the 3rd tier. And as we've seen from those examples, once you go down, just because you've been in the Premier League for 4, 5, 6 years, there is zero guarantee that you're coming back up. And in fact, recently, over the last handful of years, we've seen very, very rare. I can't even remember the last team that went down and came straight. Newcastle was probably the last team that went
Newcastle.
down.
I think Burnley did it as well, but again, Burnley had
did,
Sean Dyche, and so
Yep. Yeah, and then Newcastle had Rafa Benitez, right?
Yep.
Again, the importance of a manager. But you look at Sunderland down in League One. Stoke, they're headed that way. Huddersfield headed that way. Yeah, right. I mean, Villa took a few years to come back. So yeah, it's all. You want to stay in this league because you never know what's going to happen once you go down. We have this chat room, so we have 4 people watching live. I can't see who everyone is, but I got Neil and Jim for sure. Some of our regulars. Jim wants to know, can you guys see that question on the screen?
Yes.
So he says, Justin, ask him, what is the badge? Is that a person heading a ball or what?
It is. It's like a super. Oh, that's dead. I think it's like a super. I can't remember what it was designed on, but it was supposed to be like a digital, like video game head, I think, or something. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
interesting.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a mermaid, like a long hair. Like this sort of looks like the figure has like long hair coming down, and I thought, because you guys are on the coast and water.
That's funny. Never heard that one. Yeah.
I don't know. That's always what I thought. Although I've never looked it up, so that's just a guess. But so moving on to the actual teams a little bit. So I know we talked about this a little bit before we went live. Both of our teams suck today. I don't think we really want to talk about it. I think that's the only silver lining as a West Ham fan that I have from today is that Bournemouth also struggled, and so their confidence is a bit low. However, I can't even imagine what some of the players' confidence levels are like on our side. Although after that effort, I really don't care. But we'll move on. I don't think we need to talk about that much. Moving on to the actual team. So you guys have been playing well in the league. Neil, I believe, he was saying, let me find this comment. He said he was listing off some of the players that he was really worried about. He mentioned, I cannot find it for some reason, the comment. But anyways, I know he was mentioning.
Here we go. Josh King, Callum Wilson, Harry Wilson.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously Callum Wilson's a guy who's been one of the best strikers outside the top 6 over the last couple of years. I know West Ham were a bit interested in him. I don't think Bournemouth were really willing to sell him at all. Josh King has also been pretty solid. I don't know how he's been playing this year, but I know he's killed us at least a few times. And then Harry Wilson, the loanee from Liverpool, I know he's had a couple of good goals for you guys this year. So who are your players that have really been the keys to the success so far this season for you guys?
Nathan, you want to go ahead?
I think Harry Wilson has got to be looked at. I think it's a great signing, especially keeping out, especially considering Ryan Fraser has had a terrible start. It was amazing last year. I think he had like the highest assists in Europe outside of Messi and Ronaldo or something. I don't know, some crazy statistic like that. But yeah, and he played today, terrible. And then you have got Brooks, who was a great player last season, is out injured, and so we've had to rely on Wilson a little bit. And I think he's solid. And I think our 2 middlemen in Lerma and Billing. I think Billing's been a pretty good signing, and he's just massive. I don't know if you've seen the size of him, but he's like 7 foot tall or something. He's so tall. He's just a rock, and I think that's it. And Josh King's been good, I think. And then Nathan Ake is always solid and popping up, and it's a great coup to get him. But yeah, I would pick those guys.
And I haven't been following you guys that much so far, but how has Ryan Fraser been doing?
Ryan Fraser, I don't know. I think his head got turned too much in the summer, like with moves to Arsenal breaking down, and he's in his last year of his contract. And I don't know, because him and Wilson had such an amazing partnership last year, and you're expecting that to kick on, but he hasn't even played. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what he's doing in training or anything, Eddie Howe isn't even putting much faith in him at the moment, and he didn't
That's
do anything today. So I don't know. It's a bit unfortunate, but we got Wilson coming in, so.
I mean, you guys are winning. That's the most important
Exactly.
thing.
So yeah.
I think too. I think going back to the foundation of like Josh King and Cal Wilson, like that friendship there that you can visibly see it when they play together. I think that Fraser had it with Brooks, and I think that maybe losing Brooks, like just for right now, with the injury, I think maybe that threw him off a little bit. I don't know what his deal is. It's really disappointing to me because Wee is one of my favorite players, and his head has just like not been in the game. I mean, he went down a few times last game, and I was just like, "What are you going to get back up?" I mean, there's definitely been a big question mark around him since the summer. So I don't blame Eddie Howe for not putting all his money on him right now. Honestly,
that's a shame. That's a shame because he was one of the bright young players of the game. I think he either led the league in assists or nearly led the league in assists last year. And he was rated, a 50, 60 million pound player.
Yeah, he steadily hung in the top 3 with assists for like most of last season. So it is kind of a shame to see. I don't know if it went to his head, like Nathan, you were saying. I don't know what happened, but it's a shame.
It's unfortunate. But
yeah, and being in the top 3 in assists, for a team that's in the lower half of the table, you don't really see that a lot. So I think that really speaks to the quality he does have, and that speaks to how much of a shame it is that he's not. But again, you guys are winning, which at the end of the day, like you said, Nathan, football fans have short memories, and it's all about what have you done for me lately. And so far in the league, it's been good. So let's focus on the match upcoming. So a couple questions for you guys. So how do you guys think you're going to set up? And also, what makes you like when you think of West Ham so far this season? Like, what are your thoughts overall? Are you nervous? If so, why? Are you confident? If so, why? Nathan, we'll start with you. What do you think?
Am I confident? Yeah, I think so. I think you've got to be with the start of the season. I'm not sure. I think we'll do it. I think Eddie Howe will start with a 4-4-2. I think that's just a bit more of a solid. He's gone for 3 at the back a couple of times, and it just hasn't worked. And I think that's down to not having our main fullbacks available. Like, we've just got so many injuries in that area. But I'm pretty optimistic. Although I am a little bit nervous about West Ham. I think West Ham have got the best squad that they've had in years, and I think Pellegrini is a solid manager. I think some of the signings that West Ham have made are incredible, and they should definitely be pushing for that 6th spot, 7th spot above the rest. So I think there is a lot of power from West Ham, and they can cause a lot of damage. So I'm a little bit hesitant to jump in guns blazing, saying Bournemouth are going to wipe the floor with them like they did last year, but. So in general.
Kimberly, what are your thoughts?
I don't disagree with Nathan as far as starting lineup, all that kind of stuff's concerned. I agree, though, also with the fact that I'm not underestimating West Ham. I never do. I think that's one thing that West Ham and Bournemouth kind of have in common, is that it's just when you underestimate them, it's always the random weird matches that we come back and win somehow that you don't expect. And I think this season especially, we're not looking so much to the Chelseas and the Tottenhams to be like concerned about. I think it's the West Ham, the Cherries that are really pushing because they see the potential that they've had so far. It's right there. Like we can taste it, and both of us want it. So I'm not doubting that we're both going to show up with full force.
Yeah, it's sort of like us, where we sometimes play down to our competition. Like one game that sticks out last year was it was one of those games where we could have gone, I think, top 8 or top 7, and we lost to Cardiff, who had been in a poor run of form, and they just completely dominated us 2-0. Yet, I think 2 weeks before, we beat Arsenal. And it's like those I think sometimes the top 6 teams have underestimated West Ham, as I'm sure they have with Bournemouth, since you guys have had some really famous wins over the last few years against the big boys. They underestimate you, and in this league, it's just so competitive, top to bottom, the most competitive in the world. That I mean, like you cannot take a game off, and I think our League Cup performances today showed that, right? Especially for us playing League One opponents, Burton League One as well, I believe, and we lose. So yeah, I think that's a similarity between West Ham and Bournemouth. Jim asked a question that I actually am interested in. He asks, how many of the starters tonight, or that started the game versus Burton, how many will start on he says Sunday, but I believe we're playing Saturday.
I gotta think back who played. I don't think many. There was a couple of people that were coming back from injury. The only player that started tonight or started today that played our last game was Solanke, and I don't think he will play. I haven't been too impressed with him since he's moved. And after tonight, I don't think he'll play, and I don't think too many. I think it's a second string team tonight, and for West Ham as well. But yeah.
Although a lot of people were complaining about the squad for West Ham today, but to be honest, it wasn't that weak of a squad in my opinion, which makes me a bit nervous. We did have our second choice striker. We did play a couple youngsters. We did play a couple. Yeah, we played Nathan Holland, who's one of our bright prospects on the left wing, Snoddy on the right wing. So Jim says West Ham had 2 starters. So technically, yes, 2 starters from the last game, but you had Pablo Fornals and Issa Diop, who started the game versus United. But you also had Arthur Masuaku, who has been our starting left back, and has been one of the best left backs so far this season.
He's not still suspended, hey? He got sent off last.
He got sent off versus Villa,
which
means he couldn't play versus United. So Cresswell played, and he had a hell of a game.
Yeah, he's
great game. Masuaku had a poor game today, which makes me believe Cresswell will start. But Masuaku was statistically the best left back in the league in the first month. He started. Zabaleta, who is losing his legs a bit, but he's an experienced player, a player who started several games for us last year. And he was always going to play because Fredericks, our starting right back, was never going to play. Plus, he picked up a knock. I mean, he's an experienced player. Balbuena, our other center back, Balbuena and Diop were the preferred partnership by a majority of West Ham fans as of just a few weeks ago. And people are saying it was a weak team. I don't think it was that weak of a team, to be honest, which makes me, again, a little more nervous. And it's an opinion that I don't think many West Ham fans share with me, but nonetheless, I digress. Focusing on the West Ham team, though, given all of that lack of confidence that I just showed, are you guys nervous about anyone specifically? Like when you look at West Ham, who are you saying to yourself, we got to watch out for that? Or maybe not even a specific player, just a specific way they play. When you look at West Ham, like, what are you nervous about? What are you a little scared about?
I think I'm always nervous defensively for us. I think there's just an unsteadiness. Like sometimes we show up with our head in the match, and sometimes we don't. So I am nervous that we kind of have a tendency to set a standard for what we show up with. Like you guys are going to know that our defense is weak, and you're going to show up and take advantage of that. I think that scares me more than anything, is that we kind of tend to be more predictable than I would like. So, Nathan, I don't know if you agree with that or.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think our defense is not the best, and again, we don't have our fullbacks. I don't rate that. I don't rate Rico, our left back. I don't think he's great. I think he makes too many mistakes, and I think apart from Ake, I mean Cook is. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah. So I'm a little bit worried about the defense, and I think your attacking players with Haller, I think he's an amazing buy to get, and he's so big and so powerful.
Yeah.
And then with your Yarmolenko, I think it was a shame he got injured last year because a lot of teams were after him before he moved. He came from Germany, right?
Yeah, he came from Dortmund. Yeah.
Dortmund, yeah. He scored. Did he scored against United?
He did. He scored the first goal. So it was a really nice goal.
It was a really good goal. Yeah, I'm worried about him and then Anderson, of course. So I think and Declan Rice and your other centre mid. Does Fernell's play?
Fernell started. So Fernell started, in the number 10 role, right behind Allaire, center attacking mid, because Lanzini's been out.
And
Lanzini, in my opinion, has been our best player before he got hurt. We didn't seem to miss him versus United, but I'm a little nervous because I don't know. I'm a little nervous about missing him. Again, I thought he was our best player. For me, Hilaire. So Hilaire was always, I wouldn't say always, but I would say probably a third into the summer. I was reading like, okay, if we don't get Maxi Gomez, who was the striker we were after, who are we going to get? And I looked at Hilaire and I looked at highlights and stats. And from that point on, even when we were trying to get Maxi Gomez, I always thought Hilaire would be a better fit for us. And in hindsight, I'm really glad that Maxi Gomez went to Valencia and didn't come to us, because you mentioned Hilaire's physical strength, his presence, the way he holds up the ball. He's also a pass-first striker that can also score, which is really rare. And I think he fits really well into the Premier League, given his physicality, given the way he holds up the ball, and he just has a nose for the net. So I would be afraid of him if I were you as well. Anderson on the left wing is always dangerous, although I think he's played okay this year, can definitely play better. Yarmolenko, I'll be the first to admit that when we signed him, I did not rate him at all. But he started off the season well this year. He had a good start before the injury last year. I think that's always tough. Fornells has been the guy that I think it's going to take him a little time to get used to the Premier League. He's really slight of frame. He looks a bit slow. There have been many times where he's taking his time with the ball, and in this league you just can't do that. Someone's going to be on you really quick. It's not Spain. But I think, and a couple of the guys in the chat have been saying it, Mark Noble has been the heart and soul of this team. His first match of the season, because he was hurt the first two, was the third match versus Watford, and that's where we kicked off. That's where we really started to play well, was when he was in the team. And a lot of the guys in the chat room tonight are saying that that's a big reason why we lost today. There's no leadership out there. Now, I think that's a problem in and of itself. I don't think you can rely just on one guy. Mark Noble, he's 33, I think. He can't play every minute of every game. Someone else is going to have to step up and be the leader, but he's so important to our team. A heart and soul, Mr. West Ham. If he will be in the squad on Saturday. When he is in the squad, I think West Ham are always a dangerous team, especially when you pair him next to Declan Rice, who's an England international. So you're right in that our squad is the best it's been, and some people have said 20 years. We'll see if that's true. But at the same time, it would be classic West Ham to go to Dean Court and lose 3-0 or 3-1. We'll see though. I digress. I think it's going to be a fun game because Pellegrini likes to play a free flowing attacking form of football. You guys have Callum Wilson and Josh King up there who are always just flying around. I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. It usually is. Bournemouth are always entertaining to watch, in my opinion. There's never a dull moment with them. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up. This hit about 40 minutes, which is what I thought it would. Again, thank you both so much for coming on. Before we sign off, though, we obviously have to make predictions. And it's been absolutely crazy because this is the fourth match opposition show that I've done. And I've actually agreed on our predictions with me and the guests every single time. I've agreed I think to the score, if not to the score, to at least the result. So I'm interested in what you guys are predicting, and we'll see if we agree here. Kimberly, let's start with you. Prediction.
Yeah, I'm feeling like a 1 point differential in favor of Bournemouth, and I'm thinking like a 2-1. That's what I would go with.
Okay, Nathan, go ahead.
I'm gonna go with a 3-1 Bournemouth.
We can hope.
Yeah, we're gonna. But I think it will be tight again, like it was Southampton, like 1-1, and then we'll get a couple of goals in the last minutes.
Yeah, the one of the reasons why I'm not going to pick 3-1 is because it would be the 5th straight league game that you guys finished the match 3-1. I mean, the chances of that happening. I wonder.
Stranger things have happened.
Yes, that is true. That is true. But once again, I agree with one of the guests I have. So I do think West Ham will lose. It's hard for me. Jim, if you guys, by the way, in the chat room, you guys want to put in your predictions really quick, I'll put them up. Jim says 3-2 goal fest, West Ham win. Neil from Down Under says a 2-2 draw. I am going to go with a Bournemouth win because my confidence is at a low point right now. And I'm going to go with Kimberly's score. I think it's going to be 2-1. And the only reason I'm not picking 3-1 is because I just don't think it's the odds of 5 straight 3-1 games are just, whatever. It's not going to happen. Stranger things have happened, sure. But, man, if it's 3-1 again, that'd be crazy. I'm going to go 2-1 Bournemouth. Again, as always, I hope we're all wrong. I hope we're all wrong. I hope, obviously, West Ham. I hope Jim's right. I hope a 3-2 goal fest would be great. A 3-0 stomping of you guys would also be great. I'd take that as well. But I do think just the way we played today and the fact that we don't play well over there, it's a tough place to play. The crowd's right on you. It's hard for me to see a win. Maybe they squeak out a draw, but given the confidence being low, I'm gonna go 2-1 as well. Yeah, Jim saying why 9 starters to come back and Fabianski is key. Yeah, Jim, I'm sorry, man. I just don't have any confidence right now. But Nathan, Kimberly, again, thank you so much. When we play the reverse fixture, I'd love to have you guys on. Yeah, again, thank you guys so much. This was very fun. I'm sure I'll be tweeting and Facebooking you guys during the match, hopefully talking some trash because we're scoring some goals on you guys. But really, I really enjoyed it. Hope you guys did too. Hope everyone watching enjoyed it as well. Guys, stick around. I'm going to end the broadcast really quick, but we can just chat really quickly afterwards. So come on, you Irons. Nathan, Kimberly, you want to give us a come on, you Irons?
Absolutely not.
All right, guys. Thanks, guys. I'm going to end this broadcast.